Hi and welcome everyone to our BasePac digitizing tutorials. I am Britta Sanders from ZSK and I will lead you through the following video tutorials. I will explain the software to you step by step so you can follow my explanation and learn the software chapter by chapter. So we start with some general introduction on the embroidery and then we will go through the different elements of the software. Feel free to leave me some feedback, ask some questions, what you would like to learn, or just to skip to the chapters that you might have missed out or what you would like to learn on top. Otherwise, just enjoy doing digitizing and explore the possibilities. So in the following minutes, I will give you a short introduction in the different main stitch types, and we will have a quick look in the BasePac software where you can find them.
Basically, all embroidery is based upon 3 different stitch types. The first type is actually a normal seam, or we call it a running stitch or a running line, which consists out of just, stitches in a line. For example, here the running stitch is used for a contour when a satin border would be too small. Or in this rocket here, for instance, you have a running stitch here or here. Then we have stitch type number 2. This is a satin stitch. So you basically define lines and in between will be a zigzag.
For instance, here you have one of the satin stitch borders, and even this is a satin stitch border, slightly smaller, as well as the letters and the numbers, they follow some satin stitch. So if you take a close look, you see that they follow a zigzag.
And the third type is the so-called, some call it tatami stitch, others call it step fill or a fill stitch. So you have a shape, one defined stitch direction, and then the stitches are being basically a running line that goes all the way along the shape. Now this last stitch type contains a lot of variations and parameter settings, so you can use it for any sort of application.
So here, for example, you can see that this earth is filled with a lot of stitches from one end to the other, or the green ones here, they go like this, as the most simple example for a tatami or a fill stitch. So now let's have a look how we can find our way around in the BasePac to use these different stitch types. When opening the software, you will always end up in this start page here. Here you see your last projects you worked on if you go with your cursor over the names. Here is your design directory, so where all your last projects are saved. And here's your new page. We start with a new blank page now. And you see, if you haven't done anything yet, a lot of these functions are grayed out. So let me quickly swap to an actual project to explain you the following tools, because this toolbar here decides what you're actually doing in the software. So whenever you don't know what you're doing, you better check here on the left-hand side which mode you're in. This software actually has a drawing tool. Here, if we go to this one, this mode is used to create drawing lines or help lines you can later turn into stitches. You can also export this to other vector programs. If you go to the block mode here, you can actually select them, see them as separate objects. Your picture is here under this mode, where you can decide to switch it on or off. And now the actual important bits are the top ones here. These are all regarding your stitches. The M is the text mode. You can see here, for instance, these are actual letters used with this mode. Now, if you want to set stitches, you have to go here into the coordinate mode. This is where all your, let me switch on the stitching again, where all your stitches are. You can actually program the stitches. Here you can go in the edit mode. You can select the stitches and go through the stitches and simulate your stitching progress. And this is here the module mode where you can actually see your stitches in a box as an object. Now let's switch back to the blank page again and have a look how we now set our 3 stitch types. As I said, we go here to the coordinate mode, the punch mode, and we want to insert now new stitches. So in order to create stitches, you have to make sure that this icon here is active. If it's not active, I can click for the rest of my life, nothing will happen. I activate this one, and now I can actually set stitches. Let me go a step back. If this is active, you now have to pay attention to this line here. I'm now on needle number 1, so the first needle on your machine, and I'm in manual punching. That means if I click, my first stitch is set. Control and mouse wheel to zoom so we can have a closer look. So I can now with my left mouse button create manual stitches click by click. The 3 main different stitch types we discussed, they are then created by an automatic program. These you actually find here. Also, this is showing you the active, we call it input mode. If I click on here, you also have the same selection. So let's start with stitch type number 1. That was the running stitch. That one we have here. Click on running. Now I have this red line active. If I use my left mouse button now, I'm actually creating reference lines. If I click enter, the stitches are being calculated. Like you can see here now, our manual input mode is active again. So the program always switches between, do you want an automatic program where you create your reference line, or which is the default status is the manual punching. Here you can also make needle changes, thread trims, and anything else. Anyways, these will be discussed in the future chapter, so we have a closer look later. Okay, let's have a look at the next stitch type, which was the satin stitch, the zigzag stitch. So there are 3 different strategies to create reference data for the satin stitch. However, in detail, they will be discussed in the later chapter. For now, I just want to show you what it would look like. So let's pick the centerline program here. And again, we have a red line. Now I create click by click the contour for my satin stitch. If I press enter, I have a satin stitch here. And I'm also back in manual punching here. If I now press backspace, I'm back in the object. See, it's active, I could continue, but let's have a look here at these green lines. These are actually, we call them stitch directions. So the stitches that are being calculated, they follow the shape along these green lines. The last stitch type, number 3, was the tatami or the fill stitch. And this one we find here actually at this icon. It's called outer contour here. As before, I have my red reference line again, and I can now start creating a shape. It knows it's a closed shape, so we'll automatically finish the last point here. I pick my stitch direction, so this green line again, and I press enter. You see now we have a very dense landing line going along this shape. This is just meant to be a short introduction in the different stitch types and where you find them in the BasePac. In the following chapters, I will try and explain the different stitch types in detail, how you find your way around, how you can set parameters, and how you create your own designs. So I see you in the next chapter. Thank you for watching.